Okay, I'm recording. Okay, it's me, Tal. We're reading the third chapter of Just Like a Date Sim. And here's Nightly. Da da dun.
Hi, I'm Nightly. We're gonna get better at these intros, I promise.
We don't need an intro. We don't even need an outro. We're just gonna jump into it.
All
Um,
right.
although I did want to mention because I forgot to mention this before. I made these little like patchies for us, and patchies are like the little stuffed animals you see on the screen.
You're so
Um,
cute, and they bounce.
that's right. I realize that it's kind of silly just having them there without explanation. These are our icons for ourselves. Um, and don't.
They represent who we are on the inside. If it wasn't obvious, Tao is a little bunny patchy, and I'm just a decadent little hamster.
You're just a little hammy. Um, yes. Anyway, there's no reason to go further into that. Anyway, chapter 3, a potential solution. I believe Knightley shall pick up narrating this time around.
Yep. Kana had been worried the night before, not that you blamed her, but you knew you couldn't really explain the situation to her, not in a way that she would understand. You ended up telling her that you had just been stressed and embarrassed after what had happened with some of the boys and went up to the roof to take a nap. Anna hadn't gotten too annoyed with you, seeing your grim face. You knew she knew there was no more to the story than you were letting on, but she didn't pry. So now here you were, sitting in class, awaiting your fate. Anna was floating by your side, watching you silently to see how you would behave. You didn't know what she expected. You were literally in your own personalized hell. As expected, Katashi was the first one to find you, what with him being in your class. Also, as expected, he took a moment as though to question what he was doing before approaching you. Kana's mouth dropped open at the sight of him, but you were prepared for this.
Ahem. Excuse me? Katashi asked, his cheeks barely noticeably tinged pink. But this development caught the attention of everyone in class. Could I speak with you alone?
Everyone was waiting with bated breath to see how you'd respond. Part of you, a small one, wanted to cruelly deny him in hope that would dissipate any feelings he had for you, but you knew it wouldn't work. It would only hurt him, and you'd already hurt him enough with your stupid wish. But yeah, sure, you sighed, trying to force a smile, but it just came across as desperate and watery. If Katashi noticed, he sure didn't mention it, and as you stood up from your seat to follow him, Kana grasped your hand.
Hey, be careful, she frowned.
You just nodded, slipping your hand out of hers and following Katashi out of the classroom. The two of you walked in silence until you were far enough away from everyone else. You were a little bit nervous that there appeared to be no one else around, but you reassured yourself with the fact he was supposed to like you. He wouldn't attack you. For a moment, Katashi just stared down at you, eyes smoldering at the mere sight of you. Putting both hands on your shoulders, he said,
Oh my gosh. Grabs you? Oh my god.
yeah,
You know, I
hey
always.
times two.
Oh my god. Hey. Okay. You know, I always thought you were cute, but this is a new feeling for me.
What? You choked out.
Oh my god, he always thought you were cute. Oh my gosh. I like you. Be my girl, Katashi continued. Your jaw
Your
dropped.
jaw.
Wah! You go for it.
Okay. Your jaw dropped. That was certainly straightforward. More straightforward than what you had ever expected. I, you stammered.
It's okay. You don't have to answer now. Just wanted to let you know. Katashi interrupted, and his eye twinkled. Even if you say no, it's okay.
You swallowed, cheeks involuntarily flushing. Those would be embarrassing words for anyone to hear. Plus, he was attractive. You felt a pang of guilt through your chest that he was being forced against his will to say these things to you. I'm sorry, you choked out, your voice hoarse, but I'm really not looking for a relationship right now. But I am flattered. It would be an understatement to say Katashi looked disappointed. He looked completely crushed, though he did surprisingly good job of hiding it.
Oh my
That just made
god.
it worse. Little baby boy, it's okay. But you couldn't accept his feelings knowing what you knew. Then
Mm-hmm.
again, would it really stay that way? According to Hana, in a week, you'd forget all about her and the wish. Would you say no then? You didn't want to know the answer.
That's all right, he said. He looked like he wanted to say more, but decided against it. Oh my
You
god.
want me to be Hana again?
No, you do her. I can't.
He's hoping you'll change your mind, Kana giggled. But you wouldn't, at least not until the week was up, because you couldn't, in good conscience, accept as someone's feelings when they were under the influence of magic. I really need to get back to class. You trailed off, but Katashi's grip tightened on your shoulders.
I need to.
Talon, I'm so glad you're not in MC shoes right now.
I, I need to chill out for a second. Oh my god. Okay. Okay. Whew. Skip with me, Katashi stated. It didn't sound like an order, but it certainly wasn't a suggestion either.
Before you could turn him down, a familiar voice echoed in your ear.
Hey, what's going on over there?
Tashi released your shoulders, but he didn't look happy about it and glared in the direction of the new voice. You slowly turned around to face the student council president, none other than Atsushi. Oh god, you hoped they weren't going to butt heads or something. Then again, this was the princely student council president. Would he really fight over you? Apparently not. Atsushi just narrowed his eyes at Katashi, a gaze that warned of severe punishment if Katashi didn't scram. Of course, that wouldn't happen.
We were leaving, Katashi said.
Atsushi didn't look like he came close to believing that.
You go on ahead then, Miyamura-san, Atsushi stated. I need to discuss some things with her.
Tashi's eyes bulged out of the familiar usage of your name, and he looked about ready to punch Atsushi in the face. It seemed a bit dramatic, getting ready to fight over something like that, but you wouldn't put anything past the power of this stupid love magic. You put a soothing hand on Katashi's chest, groaning internally when you saw the look on his face, but you put that aside for the moment. Looking up at him through your eyelashes, you said, "It's okay, Katashi-kun. I'll see you in class." Katashi caught between the euphoria of you using his first name and the rage he had previously been feeling. He looked between you and gently smiling at Sushi before sighing.
Fine. Hurt her and you'll pay, Katashi spat, glaring at Atsushi before walking off in the direction of your class. Eyes never leaving Atsushi. Oh wait, I totally remember what happens later in the next scene.
What? What?
Nothing, continue.
What? Bestie? Once Katashi was out of class, the class president gestured for you to follow him. You had a really bad feeling in your stomach. God, you weren't ready for this. So, what did you want to talk about? You asked, swallowing hard and trying to sound clueless. But Atsushi didn't say anything. He just stopped in front of a door. Did he really want to talk in privately, or Atsushi grabbed your wrist in his hand and he jerked you roughly through the door, which turned out to lead to a broom
Yeah, I
closet. I
remember
see
this.
Talon going to attack you with a branch. For a split second, you thought he wanted extreme privacy to confess to you, likely due to wanting to maintain his reputation. But your entire brain froze when Atsushi started roughly attacking your neck with his mouth. Hold on. What the
Get
hell?
out of here.
It took no more than 10 seconds to push him off you, but Atsushi just smirked and started moving towards you again.
Jesus
What are
Christ.
you doing? You snapped, holding your arm out protectively in front of you. Atsushi grinned, the complete opposite of his usual princely charming one. What was happening? His eyes trailed over you, trying to find a weakness in your defense to get back to kissing you again. As he did so, he absent-mindedly said,
You're such a tease. Isn't it obvious by now? I like you. Now get over here before class starts.
"You're not even going to ask if I like you back?" You snapped, a voice high-pitched and horrified.
Sorry. Of course you like me back, and even if you don't, Atsushi found the weakness and came at you out you from the side, pressing his lips up against your neck again and gripping your waist tightly. God, I need to chill out. You're gripping your waist tightly in his hands. Even if you don't, I'm sure this will change your mind.
I'm taking a water break, bestie. I needed this. Who is this? This wasn't the nice and princely student council president. This guy seemed cocky to a disturbing level, even going so far as to start touching you without your consent. Well, someone had to teach him a lesson. You pushed him away roughly with your shoulder, glaring hatefully at him and hoping desperately he hadn't left any marks. Sorry to This would be me if I ever did that. I couldn't say this without stuttering. Sorry to disappoint you, you spat in disgust, but I'm definitely not interested, so I think you'd better stop. Sushi breathed heavily, but he made no move to come in onto you again. He just smirked.
You're more interesting than I gave you credit for.
You're not like other girls.
Oh my god, you're not like other girls. Most girls would have given in by now, actually. I think you fuck this guy.
Lovely's like, yeah, I'm just gonna throw this all in there. I have absolutely no shame in all this.
Oh my god. I mean, this is what high school is all about. Being
No, I
being
ate
so
this. I ate
uncontrollably
this up. I
thirsty.
ate this up
Me
immediately when I
too.
read this.
Oh my goodness. Most girls would have given in by now. Actually, I think I love you more now, if that's even possible.
Have you really just thrown the L word out there? You didn't doubt it was true under the influence of the wish, but you barely knew him. Even Katashi had the common sense to just say that he liked you. You gaped at Atsushi, just for a moment, before clamping your mouth shut due to fear of him assuming that was an invitation. Don't come near me, you breathed before slipping out of the closet. Atsushi followed you out, gripping your arm tightly to keep you from moving away.
To stop for a second, I remember this one time in elementary school where a friend told me her crush, and she didn't want me to say that she had a crush on this guy. And so she said, just use the L word instead. And I was like, what? You want me to tell people that you love him? I realized after the fact that she meant like, not love. Anyway,
You were just like, oh my god.
yeah, I was like, damn, okay. Anyway,
Just like in them shoujo mangas.
hey, that's okay, Atsushi smirked. You'll give in. You can't resist me forever.
Mm, doubt.
Down.
Then he
Press
let
X
you
to
go
doubt.
and walked off in the opposite direction. Oh ho ho! Anna giggled into your ear and you glared up at the woman. That's not what I was expecting. Just goes to show you that not everyone is what they seem. Shut up, you growled and stormed off towards your class. You could not believe that just happened. You'd always felt a little off around at Sushi, but you never would have expected to have such a warped personality. Is this going to be your life from now on? Then another pang of guilt. Sushi was a piece of shit, sure, but he didn't deserve it either. And here you were complaining about your own problems. All those guys were the ones who would suffer due to your mistake, and it had been one mistake, one tiny, little, tiny mistake. How could you have been expected to know what that well would do? There had to be a way out of this. There was always a way. There's a way. There's a well. So that's how
Gotta
these
find the
kinds of
hate well.
stories. Yeah. God, I hope these guys just I pissed them off. That's how these kinds of stories usually went, right? There was always a loophole. You wanted to ask Hana, but there were too many people around. After class, once you were alone, you would demand to see the love guard and demand a solution. But for now, you had class. You could only hope that Sushi hadn't left any bruises or hickeys. Yeah, let's hope. This is why I wear turtlenecks all the time.
Wow, really?
Yes, I love turtlenecks. I have like 5 of them.
Oh, okay. I was like, wow, you're really getting enough action to need to wear turtlenecks?
No, it's just aesthetic. People thought that though back in high school.
Wow.
Only for me to disappoint them. But I was just a nerd. Throughout class, you were practically itching for lunch. You could go somewhere private, talk to Hana, and get the solution you wanted. You couldn't live like this, and you couldn't let anyone else live like this. You squirmed in your seat, trying to ignore Katashi's weird
Aw.
looks. You just knew he was going to approach you during lunch and ask what had gone on between you and Atsushi,
Aw.
and you weren't ready for that. You had other places to go.
Oh my god, what if we had told him and you totally fucking beat him up?
Well, that would be a plus.
It would be a little bit.
Start your own fighting ring between your harem. The moment the teacher released you for lunch and you saw Katashi getting up, you panicked and turned to Suzuha, pleading with your eyes for her to distract him. She smiled evilly, nodded, and cut Katashi off before he could get to you, saying something super teasing and probably super rude while you slipped out the door, bento in hand, to go somewhere private to talk to Hana. But of course, life hardly ever works out that way you want it to, and you bumped into a chest. Sweating nervously, you looked up at your senpai, Mamoru, who was smiling cheerily down at you. Oh, Mamoru senpai, you swallowed. Thanks again for yesterday. Well, I've got somewhere to see.
I was looking for you, Mamoru chirped, leaning in a bit with a flirtatious smile. I was wondering if you'd let me draw you.
I really don't think. You knew he wasn't planning on taking no for an answer, at least not without some serious prompting, and Suzuha couldn't hold off Hitachi forever. You had no choice but to agree. That was your best bet at getting alone with Hana anyway. Okay, fine. Let's go.
Great, Mamoru exclaimed and wrapped his arm around your shoulder to lead you in the direction wherever he intended to draw you.
You felt extremely uncomfortable by the affectionate touch, especially after all that had happened earlier, but you weren't going to shake him off until you were far enough away from your classroom. After some turns, the two of you reached the art room, and the two of you quietly entered. To your surprise, no one else was around. You just hoped Mamoto didn't take this as an opportunity to come on to you. But it seemed he was serious about wanting to draw you, because he shooed you onto a nearby couch, used for posing, and he pulled out a sketchbook. To be completely honest, you really wanted to open your bento and start eating. If you were going to have to wait on talking to Hana anyway, but somehow it just didn't seem appropriate to eat on the couch that belonged to the art club when you were being sketched.
But
Then
then
Mamoru
Mamoru
smiled
smiled
and
and said,
said,
"You can eat if you want. I'm not the type of artist that needs you to be completely still. Besides, I think you'll be pretty cute when you're eating too."
"Mm-hmm." You huffed but opened your bento anyway and glared at him. "You'd better not draw me eating."
No promises, Mamoru hummed.
Even though you felt self-conscious about being sketched and eating in silence in front of another person, you felt surprisingly comfortable. In spite of how flirty Mamoru had seemed, especially the day before, he was respectful enough not to take advantage of having you alone and all to himself. Plus, he actually seemed to be drawing you, which was nice. The silence didn't feel awkward, the only sound through the room being your chewing and his pencil scratching the paper. Would it take him out of the zone if you tried to talk? Luckily, you didn't have to test the waters, because Mamoto answered the question for you by beginning to speak.
You know, you're the first girl I've drawn in a long time, he admitted.
He raised an eyebrow. Why? You couldn't help but ask. He looked up over the top of his sketchbook, eyes sparkling, and he said,
I promised myself I wouldn't draw another girl unless I really loved her.
You really screwed up, girl. This is so mean. What?
It's just
Your
painful
cheeks
now.
flushed because your cheeks flushed because as humiliating and horrible as it was, there was also really, really smooth.
Damn right
Was
it
that
was.
true?
Fuck this guy. Jesus.
It was entirely possible, but you couldn't help but wonder if that was just a line or if he had really hadn't drawn any other girls. You didn't doubt he was in love, but it just felt weird thinking he had never drawn another girl. Is that really true? You blurted out. Oh, that may have sounded rude. Or that may have been kind of rude, but Mamoru just laughed.
Mm-hmm. He nodded. I do love you.
No, I meant that you haven't drawn another girl, you amended.
Hmm? Really? So you believe I love you? Mamoru hummed. Does that mean you love me too?
You weren't going to get an answer, were you? He sighed. I'm sorry, I'm not really looking for a relationship right now, but I'm really flattered.
That's understandable. Mamoru nodded, not looking hurt at all by your rejection. We barely know each other after all. I guess it's too much to ask that we both had love at first sight, but I'd like to think that I can make you fall for me.
Was it just you, or did Mamoto seem the most aware of the situation? Putting aside the fact that he seemed to be convinced that you would fall for him eventually, you felt very safe around Mamoto. Because he didn't seem interested in forcing you, and he didn't seem all that sad that you didn't love him back. Maybe that would change. But if Hana couldn't help you, well, at least being around Mamoto wouldn't be miserable. At least you wouldn't be entirely ruining his life. Mamoto finished his sketch and smiled down on it, turning it to you. He said,
See? Cute.
He looked at the drawing, showing you in a profile, smiling down at a piece of fried chicken. This is one of the things it's got right about me.
Oh my
You
god.
looked like an idiot. Your face didn't have any weird lines, your face didn't have any weird lines, and shading on your face brought out the best in your features. But the fact that you were eating and smiling at a piece of chicken like you found your soulmate was beyond embarrassing. Hey, where's this piece of chicken falling in love with me?
Oh my god,
hottest
this
guys
chicken
in
is one of the
school.
hottest boys in school.
That's why we're so upset. You wanted to scream at him to redo it, but you couldn't. If you were the first girl he'd drawn in a while, was it really fair if you forced him to scrap it, even after you agreed to be his model? This didn't stop you from scowling at him.
Mamoru turned his sketch back to himself and studied it again. I hope you look at like. Sorry. I hope you.
Hold on, okay. His other line was smooth, but this is a little bit better.
This is so funny. I hope he's like aware how funny he is right now. I hope you look at me like that one day.
Me too. That was it. You were done. You grabbed your empty bento box and stood up to leave.
Hey, Mamoru called after you, smiling a bit smug. Will you let me paint you next time?
Fine, you sighed. Just make sure I'm not eating then.
You look so cute when you eat, but okay, Mamoru smiled.
You turned away and left the room. Finally. You had enough time to find a private space and talk to Hana about options, but of course, your life sucks and everything is always inconvenient. You ran into Shigeru and Toshio. You were surprised you remembered their names, having only met them the day prior. Well, that wasn't entirely true. You'd seen them before, but you'd only just learned their names. You were a bit nervous, what with the both of them being disarmingly hot, but if you remembered correctly, Toshio hadn't been affected much at all. You glanced at Hana, willing her to explain, but she just smirked down at you. Shigeru stared at you, cheeks growing more and more flushed the more he looked at you. He glanced at Toshio, then to you, then his cheeks grew as red as his hair.
Uh, um, hey, senpai, he choked out hoarsely. I, sorry about yesterday. I mean, when I hit you in the face with our ball.
I remember, you replied, tilting your head out to the side, and it's okay. I'm already over it. My nose feels a lot better, too.
I'm glad, Shigeru shouted a bit too loud. He glanced at Toshio again, looking immensely ashamed of himself before saying, Um, nice seeing you again. I gotta go.
Then he sped off in the opposite direction. At least he wasn't as annoying as some of the others, but you couldn't help but be concerned about him. He had been acting really strange after all. Did you find him and reassure him? But you didn't want to encourage him either. Plus you had to talk to Hana. That was the thing to do. Speaking to Hana would be the best thing you could do for any of them. Is he gonna be okay? You asked. Toshio glanced in the direction of Shigeru had sped off in.
He's fine. He gets this way around people he likes.
Was it just you, or did Toshio look mad? Oh, he's so cute. I think he's my favorite.
This one, I,
Yeah.
um, oh, what's his name again? Shigeru's confession is actually like really, really sad for me. I remember drawing it.
Okay. Furthermore, was it really acceptable for him to be sharing that his friend liked someone without his friend's permission? You glanced up at Hana again, urging her to offer you any information on the subject. Still nothing. Whatever, you didn't need her. At least not yet. I just met him yesterday, you said.
That's never stopped people from having crushes before. Toshio glanced away. If you'll excuse me.
Oh, wait. You stopped him. After all, even though Toshio was acting strange, he was still the only guy from the day prior that hadn't acted weird at all. Maybe he was just better at hiding it, or maybe the magic hadn't affected him. You hoped it was the latter. It gave you hope. But then why did he seem so annoyed by Shigeru's little crush on you? This was giving you a headache. You needed to say what you needed to say and get going to speak with Hana. There wasn't enough time before class started, not anymore, but you could skip a few minutes of class for something so vital. Thanks for yesterday. That was nice of you. You missed some of the practice to help me.
It's really no big deal. It was the least I could do after Shigeru hurt you. Toshio responded, face still not betraying much.
His eye twitched slightly after mentioning his friend, but other than that, nothing. Weird. Well, that was all you had to say, and if he wasn't going to hold you up, you needed to go talk to Hana privately. We really gotta talk to Hana, like, seriously. See you around. You gave him a little wave goodbye, and he nodded. Now it was time for Hana, but where to go? The broom closet at Sushi pulled you into earlier into the day seemed like a good as place as any, just as long as the Sushi or any of the other guys weren't around, of course. With those thoughts floating in your head, you glanced at Hana out of the corner of your eye. She'd been following you the whole day, but she'd hardly said a word. Really, the only time she'd said anything was when she'd briefly popped up to explain Katashi's true feelings and laughed at Atsushi's bizarre personality change. You knew she was. You knew she knew way more than she was letting on with the whole Toshio and Shigeru situation, but she was purposely withholding information. You just couldn't get why. Was she doing it for amusement? Just trying to see if. The longer I read, the more I realize that I mess up a little bit. Did you want to pick it up a little bit later?
Oh my gosh, where are we?
Um,
I just stepped away
you were
for a
doing
second.
it the amusement bit.
Where are we?
A little bit above the senpai. Hold on. Yeah, a little bit above the name senpai.
Okay.
So let me just finish reading this one paragraph. Was she doing it for amusement, trying to see if you could figure it out? Both? Maybe waiting for you to snap and demand her outright whilst in the presence of the other people? Of course. All right. Am I picking it up?
Oh, you want me to pick it up?
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, I can do Hana still, but I can tell that I'm messing up more.
Oh, it's okay. It didn't matter anyway. It wasn't your business. And whatever it was, that and whatever it was would be fixed the second you found your loophole. Making sure no one was watching too closely, you opened the door to the broom closet, and lo and behold, there was Shigeru, using his hand to cover his mouth and cheeks still tinged red. Senpai, he stammered. What are you doing here? I could.
You can still be
Okay.
MC.
I
Could ask you the same thing.
Oh, okay. You can still be MC then. You sighed and shut the door behind you two. It wasn't anything perverted. You just didn't want anyone seeing him and getting the wrong idea. Shigeru stood up tall, still blushing. But he scowled at you. I was here first. Go away. Tsundere, a shy Tsundere, and an immature one. He intended to do just that, considering Shigeru didn't seem to plan on leaving anytime soon.
I'll go, you said. But at least tell me what's going on with you.
Nothing's going on, Shigeru snapped, looking suddenly very irritated. God, you're so annoying. So why do I... He cut himself off.
Why do you like me? Is that what you were about to say? You asked.
I don't like you, Shigeru snapped, but his cheeks betrayed him.
You can cut the act. Toshio-kun already told me, he responded.
That dirty little Shigeru raged, but then immediately calmed down and sighed. No, I don't blame him for getting mad. I'm an awful friend.
What makes you say that? You asked.
Because no reason.
You don't have to tell me unless you want to. I understand.
It's just, he whispered. Why do I like you when my best friend has been in love with you since you entered this school?
What?
He just about shrieked, and Shigeru covered his mouth with his hand once he realized what he'd done. The poor boy shuffled back, eyes wide as saucers. Shit! Yeah, you didn't hear me say that. I mean, I didn't do that. Oh God, Toshio's gonna kill me. I should probably just let him. Shigeru groaned.
Toshio-kun likes me?
He stared blankly into space for a moment. According to Shigeru, it had to have been a long time before the effects of the wish. Maybe that's why he wasn't reacting. He was already used to the feelings and knew how to hide them. But why you? You've never spoken to him before yesterday. At least you thought so. But now you weren't so sure. Well, it didn't matter now. I'm sorry, Shigeru exclaimed miserably before bolting out the door, leaving you blissfully alone. Finally, you stared at Hana and crossed your arms over your chest.
What's that look for? She snorted.
I can't do this, you replied.
I'm sorry, I already told you.
I want to see the love god. I know you can't do anything, but he certainly can, right? You asked.
Hana's jaw dropped. I really don't think that's a good idea, kid.
What do I have to lose, you asked? What's the worst thing he could do? He's the love god, not the god of death. Hana looked away, guilt and fear etched into her expression.
More than you know. Benzai Tensama is not a nice guy, and he's never undone people's wishes or requests in the past.
Then I'll be the first, you exclaimed.
If I bring you up there, he's going to be mad at me.
And Hana really sounded scared when she said that. You didn't really know the woman at all, but something about that just really felt wrong with her personality. Please, Hana-sama, I have to do what's right. I can't just let these guys keep on like this, you pleaded. Hana looked at you, frowning, and eyebrows scrunched together. But then her expression softened. She must have seen something in you.
Fine, I'll take you to see him so that you can make your case, Hana sighed. But you'd best be prepared. Benzai Tensama is not kind nor patient. You'd best keep your guard up and hope his woman is with him.
Understood, you nodded. You would make things right. Okay.
I love the lore about make sure his woman is with him, because I know the lore behind that.
I don't know the lore. Is it related to that side story?
It's related to one of Lovely's side stories, yeah.
Is it I forget what it's called. Is it the one where the girl had like a heart-shaped birthmark?
I think it's Summer Reds.
Yeah, I think that's the one. Oof. All right, I guess that's the end of this chapter. What a long author's note. As much as I appreciate how
Lovely wants to make sure that everyone knows what's up.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, she's in college now. Good for her.
She's getting that degree.
Yes.
So I will always update.
update.
How's that working for you, bestie?
She
She
she's
does
doing pretty
update.
well.
She's pretty
Yeah,
vocal about what's on hiatus and what's
hmm
actually discontinued.
yeah, she had a recent journal entry about that. Um, but anyway, I don't think I have anything else to say. Aside from
Um,
that's the end of the chapter. My gosh,
yeah.
who's your favorite so far? At me asking the
Like out of
audience.
the guys, I definitely like. I definitely like. Oh, that's right. You're asking the audience. We already know I like
Okay,
Toshio
yeah.
and Hana.
hmm
Who's your favorite
Oh my
audience?
god. And you're looking forward to that secret Yandere character as well, aren't you?
God, yes.
All right, and that'll be how I leave you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.